Hello and welcome to Painting Panzers. My name's Christian and today we've got another Revell video. So I believe this is my second Revell. We've done a lot of italeri and esci figures, but we're going to be taking a look at a Revell Fallschirmjäger or German Paratrooper model, and I'm going to be painting it up in an early war scheme. So stay with me guys, and if you're new here, please do subscribe. I really want to hit 10k by the end of the year. We are on track to do so, but it's just dropped off ever so slightly, and I know a lot of you have been watching that aren't subscribed. It costs nothing and it really would go a long way. Alright guys, let's get straight into it. Now, as I said, this set is from Revell and it's the German Paratroopers. As you can see, you get a variety of figures, but not as many as some of the other box sets. And unfortunately for Revell, this is known as one of their poorer sets, but we're going to take a look at how I paint one of them anyway. So to start off with, I'm going to give him a primer, to me a surface primer light grey, and then I'm going to be painting his plain smock in US olive drab, and decided to go against painting it in camouflage for this particular video because I'll be looking at Fallschirmjäger in a future video in which I will cover the splinter pattern smocks. So for now, we're just going to go with that plain smock. For his trousers, I'm going to be going with German Field Grey World War II. Now I'm going to be keeping this guy looking like he's ready for the early war period, so the invasion of the Low Countries. So we're going to have like blue helmets and a few other blue bits of equipment, but we're going to try and keep it the rest of his uniform in that green shade. So as I said, we're going to be painting his extra bit of ammunition, the ammunition patches around his neck here in Luftwaffe uniform World War II. So obviously it pretty much says it exactly what paint it's used for. It's obviously for the Luftwaffe, and we're going to be using the same blue for the helmet, and it's going to be matching the box art as well that was on this Revell box. For the wood, I'm going to be using flat earth. So this particular guy's got a Kar 98, so we're going to be painting that in flat earth, as well as the handle of his grenade, which we'll look at in just a minute. Now obviously these figures haven't got a massive load of equipment and such on there, which isn't a bad thing because some of these paratroopers obviously jumped with very little equipment. They had to find it and scavenge for it, but it makes painting it very easy indeed. So for the boots, I'm going to be using black for that. Now you're going to be painting really dark webbing, so you could go with like a dark brown or a black, but I avoid painting the webbing in black. I'm going to go with black grey, but before I paint the webbing, I'm going to be using black grey as well for any of the metal items. So you can see here that I'm painting part of the Kar 98 in that black grey, and any other metal item. So you can also paint his belt buckle in that colour, as well as I said, the webbing, so the top part of his water bottle, the belt that's going across him, and that kind of thing. Now for any leather, you can see this guy's got a pistol holster, so I'm going to be painting that in German camo medium brown. If he had like MP40 pouches, the strap for that I'd be painting in that colour, as well as like a binocular case for example, we could paint it in the same colour, or a map case. But yeah, it works really well for a worn leather colour. And then English uniform is what I'm going to be painting for his water bottle, just being sure that I'm careful around that part of the black grey, so the strap and the top of that canteen, and making sure I don't get too much mess. And then as I said with the grenade and the wooden part, we're going to be painting the top part of that grenade in US dark green. Now I'm going to be giving him a dark black wash. I'm going to be using no oil and Lafmio medium, or their technical medium, at a 1:1 ratio. That's from Warhammer. I thin it down just to take away the sharpness of that black wash, and it actually works out to become a really nice wash, and it's perfect for what I want. Then with that done, we can go with US olive drab and German camo beige at a 1:1 ratio, and this is our one and only layer, and I'm pretty much going to be painting all of the uniform again, but leaving that original base colour in all of the recesses, as you can see with all these grooves in that smock. That wash also takes a good couple of hours to dry, so just let it dry for a couple of hours before you start doing this process. But you can see that that smock has really brightened up, but it doesn't look too unrealistic. It's got a bit more of a worn colour to it as opposed to a really bright colour. Now with the same painting principle, I'm going to be using German field grey and grey-green at that 1:1 ratio again, and this is for his trousers. So bear in mind these Fallschirmjäger smocks do have a part for the upper part of the leg, so just be careful not to mix the trousers and the smock together. You're painting just above the knee down. And then Luftwaffe uniform, World War II and white grey at a 1:1 ratio is what we're going to be using to paint any of the blue items. So you can see that I'm just adding in a few little dots on each side of those pouches to show the separation of the actual different elements of the pouch. And then I'm going ahead and giving the helmet a go. So there's a nice little brim of the helmet there that I'm painting, and then I'm watering down the paint and I'm just putting it on the top of his helmet. So for the wooden areas, I'm going to be using flat earth and orange brown, and I'm just going to be scratching in the bits of wood here, so to try and simulate some kind of wood grain. It works. I know it sounds a bit crazy, but honestly it does work. I think the combination works really well. And then once you've got that done, you can go with orange brown, and this is just going to give you a nice bright color just to brighten up that wood a little bit more. But just scratch on, but just do a lesser amount than what you did previously. So for the metal, I'm going to be using black grey and basalt grey at a 1:1 ratio. So you can see here I'm painting all the various aspects of the metal on this Kar 98. So there's all these different little metal brackets and the muzzle and the bolt mechanism and the trigger and all these little bits that I'm painting. And then I'm also painting the belt and the top of that canteen, that black or dark grey strap as well. So just bringing it all in. So for this is all I'm doing for the webbing, and then for the metal to finish it off, I'm going to be using basalt grey, and this is where you're just picking out those raised areas. This is a highlight. So there's two elements to this and the wood, as opposed to like the uniform, we're just giving it one layer after we've been giving it a wash. This is where we give it two, so we give it a layer and then a highlight. I also give the belt buckle some basalt grey just to make it stand out a little bit more. And then I can move on to that pistol holster. So I'm using German camo medium brown and orange brown at a 1:1 ratio. And yes, there's some detail in it. It didn't get a fantastic write-up even on that review page, these Revell German Paris. But this one isn't too bad, to be honest. I probably should have filled in that big little sprue mark or something on his back, but you know, never mind. So English uniform and German camo beige at a 1:1 ratio is what I'm going to be using to highlight that water bottle. And if you are somebody that's been watching the channel for a while, you'll know that a lot of these paints are pretty much similar across all what I do. So do take that into consideration, because I don't use a whole massive range of paints. So light flesh is what I'm going to be using from AK Interactive to paint the flesh tone of this German Paratrooper. And I'm just taking my time because I like to paint all of the uniform and such first before I tackle anything else. So it is very important at this part that you are taking your time. So yeah, don't rush it because you've spent more time getting the rest of the model ready. So whilst that paint is drying, I'm just going to give the grenade a bit of US dark green and German camo beige 1:1 ratio, just painting the top and the bottom of that green part of the grenade where the part meets the wooden handle, and the top part, just to give it a nice little bit of definition. And then I'm going to come along with Flesh Wash from Vallejo, which is a nice pinky red wash. It's going to go into all the recesses of the face, and then I'm going to let that dry. The Flesh Wash actually dries a lot quicker than the black wash, so you probably only need to leave it for like half an hour, but it's up to you. You can leave it a little bit longer. And once it is dry, you can come back over it with light flesh. And yeah, you're pretty much painting everything again. So the nose, the cheeks, the chin, the neck, the arm here, the hand, but just leaving that darker base colour that's been washed in the recesses. So between the fingers and between the nose and, you know, mouth and stuff. And then see here, I'm using light flesh and highlight flesh at a 1:1 ratio. I'm adding a little line on his nose, a little line underneath each eye socket, a little line on the ear, a little line on the chin, a little bit of a line where the neck meets the smock, and then just scratching on for the arm, a little bit on the hand and then the fingers. And then I'm using German camo medium brown just to tidy up the strap for his helmet. And I thought it was a bit plain, so I wanted to spice things up a little bit. So I wanted to add a nice little Luftwaffe emblem on there. So I'm using white grey and just adding the Luftwaffe eagle or bird. I don't know what exactly it is. I haven't really looked into it too much. I'm assuming it's just an eagle anyway. And just adding in a nice little line on each side in the shape of like a bird wing and then a dot in the middle. And you should have something that looks like this. So it's not come out too badly. I think he actually looks pretty nice. But definitely not the best toy soldier that's currently on the market. So overall, this Revell figure took very little time at all and actually came out pretty nicely. I did cheat, I didn't do the splinter camo smock, but you know what? That is going to be coming in a future video where I might try and tackle some tropical Fallschirmjäger with their splinter pattern. So do let me know in the comment section if that's something you want to see. I know a lot of you have been asking for modern figures, so don't stress, I have got modern figures coming soon. I'm just not sure exactly when that's going to be, but as always, I'd love to hear what you want to see next in this Toy Soldier series. It's been a lot of fun so far, and I really do look forward to continuing with this series. A massive thank you goes out to my Patreons and YouTube channel members, specifically those Panzer Aces. So that's Patrick, Oscar, James, Panzer Jim, Colin, Lack of Foresight Gaming, Mike, Mikey, Eric, Rothgar, and Jonathan. You guys are absolutely awesome. Thank you so much for being those aces. I can't believe how many of you there are already. If you'd like to join their ranks and others amongst the members, please do check it out. There's lots of perks for you to choose from, and there's been lots of early release videos coming out lately. I think we're like 4 or 5 weeks ahead, so please do have a look at that. If you're interested, you can join for as little as $1 a month. All right guys, I'm going to leave it here. Don't forget to drop me a like, a comment and subscription. And until then, I will catch you at the next one.